there's nothing that changes the tone of a scene like a giant monster showing up in all of its glory. The element of surprise coupled with the immense stature of these beasts presents the kind of shock value that even surpasses the allegations Kendrick Lamar has placed on Drake. Well, this isn't a rap battle, but we are involving some titans of the game. So sit back and relax as the TV region presents the top 25 giant monster entrances in the movies. Well, it's about time I included an entry from this absolute juggernaut of a film. Godzilla Kong has given us a lot of memorable moments, and you're definitely going to see more of them moving forward. But for now, I'd like to kick off this list with the surprise attack from the Drown Viper. Man, Kong sure has a knack for getting attacked by underwater monsters whenever he's just trying to chill in lakes and stuff, doesn't he? The Drown Viper had a pretty unique design, and the nature of its towering appearance really made Kong look like a small fry in front of it. Heck, even Zuko was running for his life after seeing the beast. See, this is another thing I liked about this film. They gave enough time for each of his monsters to at least be showcased. This is unlike King of the Monsters, where most of the titans were literally just there for a couple of seconds. Anyway, coming back to the Drown Viper, I'm really glad the creative team decided to put in the effort to make this such a visually epic creature. The battle that followed was intense as well, although it was kind of obvious that it would only have Kong as the winner. Man, this giant gorilla just loves getting attacked by beasts that eventually become a free lunch for him. I wonder how the Deep would feel about his aquatic buddies getting violated this way. Giant monsters come in all shapes and sizes, and fluidity as well. Just ask Kronos from Wrath of the Titans. This was a monster that even the likes of Zeus and Hades were scared of, and for good reason too, you know. His entrance in the climax of the film was nothing short of legendary because of the epic scale with which he was presented. I mean, if you think about it, this dude is basically a giant walking volcano. The fact that he was even trying to speak in his unique language was also something impressive, because you usually just find monsters roaring into oblivion for no good reason. Not only did Kronos look deadly here, he also made a lot of people sweat, and I don't just mean that because of all the lava erupting from his body. Two literal gods went up against Kronos, and they weren't able to do much damage to the beast. Like, Zeus channeled his inner Thor and struck that thing with his biggest lightning bolt, and all he got in return was the monster's equivalent of ouch. Man, this guy's creature design really must have cost a bomb. Maybe that's why they kept covering it with smoke. After all, you can't really stretch the CGI budget after a certain point, can you? Okay, right before you say anything in the comments, let me just tell you right now that Megatron does qualify as a giant monster because of two reasons. One, he's literally a giant robot. And two, he's the main villain of the movie, and those guys are pretty much monsters in any case. Now that I've cleared this all up for you, let's go back in time all the way to 2007 when we were introduced to the world of Transformers in the most epic way possible. Now, Megatron's entrance is more like an awakening because there's this huge build-up towards him finally breaking free from his cryo state. You can see all the humans working hard on figuring out how to break down all the ice on him, and even the other Decepticons like Starscream are seen rushing towards the military base because they got the signal. Of course, the money shot is when Megatron actually wakes up and starts smashing things immediately. It's so in character for the iconic villain that I'm not even mad he caused so much destruction without even giving himself a moment to cherish his liberation. I can also see why his first words after being frozen for so long were, "I am Megatron." It's probably because he could hear the humans calling him NBE1 for so long and he probably got sick of it.
Lord Megatron.
Where is the cube?
The humans have taken it.
You fail me yet again, Starscream.
Yep, I'm sure you would have been expecting to see this one somewhere on this list. Now, the main reason why I haven't placed Shimo's entrance higher up on this list is because the trailers kind of ruined it for me. Sure, we could assume that she was going to be in the film, but come on, man. That shot with the two glowing eyes would have hit so hard in the cinema halls if we'd seen them in there for the first time. Anyway, it's still an epic entrance because it's right off the bat of Kong's little encounter against the Scar King. Just when it looked like our favourite gorilla was going to humble that prick of a villain, he decides to bring out his trump card, and oh boy, what a trump card she is. Shimo's appearance was made to look larger than life, and it worked out perfectly in context of the scene as well. Seeing her chained up gave us the immediate idea that she wasn't here of her own free will, but even then, that gargantuan size of hers made even Kong look like a chimpanzee in comparison. And then that ice blast pretty much cemented Shimo as the deadliest beast we've seen in the Monsterverse after King Ghidorah. Yeah, there's no way Kong would have been able to take Shimo on. The only dude capable of that was Godzilla. There's a movie series from the 2020s era that's been made on a grand scale while also being able to maintain artistic integrity, and it's definitely Dune. Denis Villeneuve knows what he's doing when it comes to making films, and Dune is the perfect example of it. Now, when it comes to giant monsters, I think it's no secret that the sandworms are the marquee beasts from the franchise. The battle scene from Dune Part 2 was simply epic if I were to explain it in a phrase, and a lot of that had to do with the way these sandworms were made to appear. It's also as if the whole thing was staged to a degree wherein you could feel as if you were watching a theatrical act unfold in front of you. Those sandworms look terrifying enough as it is, and then to see them suddenly showing up in the middle of the sand mist was a beautiful and haunting piece of direction. What's more is that we're treated to not one, but multiple sandworms showing up and attacking the Sardaukor army. Man, those soldiers must have been questioning their relevance the moment they saw those beasts. Those worms, on the other hand, must have just thought they're in for a free buffet. Okay, let me just get one thing clear. King Kong may look like an oversized gorilla, but he's technically a titan, so that doesn't make him a monkey. That's the mistake those silly humans made when they first came across Kong in his debut Monsterverse film. You know, I've always found the people in these movies to be useless side characters. Like, it's a monster movie, so you better show me the monsters, right? In this case, Kong's entrance was truly epic and scary because he didn't give those choppers a chance. His arrival was announced the moment he started throwing trees at those helicopters without any hesitation. Sure, the silhouette of Kong against the sun is amazing cinematography as well, but the tree trunk hitting the first helicopter is just beautiful to me because it immediately announces Kong as this extremely dangerous beast who can't be defeated by human technology. Considering Kong's age, it's kind of funny to see that a whole bunch of trained soldiers are getting their butts handed to them by a teenager. But yeah, this scene perfectly showcased what Kong's capable of and why we shouldn't be messing with him even if he doesn't hold a candle to Godzilla.
I want you to tell me something right now. Do you love your mama?
I love her!
How much do you love your mama?
I love her so much!
It's hard to make a list on giant monsters and not include Pacific Rim. The kaijus from the first installment were truly terrifying to say the least, and I will still maintain that Otachi was the deadliest of them all. Just look at how she enters Earth through that kaiju portal. You already know you're dealing with an absolute nightmare right from the get-go. However, the main entry I want to talk about here is when Otachi makes that surprise attack on Crimson Typhoon. The way she's able to smack that Jaeger away as if it's an oversized action figure is truly commendable, and also speaks volumes about her general sense of intelligence. Not just that, she was able to make Cherno Alpha sweat, which is a big deal because you know how tough the Russians are. Oh yeah, let me throw in a little bonus by mentioning Leatherback's completely unexpected sneak attack on Cherno Alpha out of nowhere. Like, I can say for sure that none of us were expecting to see that in the middle of the battle, and it worked as the perfect entrance point for him because he basically entered the battle scene and totally demolished a Jaeger worth God knows how many billions of dollars. You know, single dads really have it tough nowadays. Just look at Mark. The poor guy simply wanted to save his ex-wife and only child, which is why he was willing to risk it all in sub-zero temperatures, but then Emma just goes like, he's a three-headed dragon, bye! And here I thought my ex was toxic, eh? Anyway, the build-up to King Ghidorah's entrance was quite menacing and almost felt like a horror movie from certain angles. The first glimpse of the tail followed by his three heads showing up one after the other were perfectly in sync. Also, the deadly looks on all three faces pretty much summed up that this dude was ready to wreak havoc. The thing about a monster like Ghidorah is that his mere presence is more than enough to make anyone piss their pants. I also liked how right from its very first appearance we're shown that each of the three heads has its own personality. I love middle head Ghidorah's reaction. He's like, what just happened, bro? Then he turns to left head and pulls his horn almost as if he's saying, hey man, focus. We're supposed to be the main villains of this movie here, you know. It reminds me of that meme where Ghidorah's left head is the dumb one.
Yeah, that's the shit right there. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
I've always maintained that this film pretty much redefined the monster genre because of the found footage and POV shooting style. We can clearly see that there's a beast somewhere destroying the whole of New York City. The only time we actually get to see the monster making an entrance is right at the very end of the movie after the humans think they've managed to defeat the beast by bombing it down. Dude just went like, psych, I ain't dead yet, and went on to get rid of the whole gang of survivors who we thought were going to get a happy ending. Now, if you've been watching my videos from before, you'll know that this monster was given the name Clover by the production team, and it makes a lot of sense because the whole of NYC did feel like a playing field to the beast. I guess that explains the name of this movie as well. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is that Clover's first ever proper reveal coincides with the ending of the movie, so that in itself was pretty meta if you think about it. Like, it's almost as if the director was telling us that it's all over once you come face to face with this gigantic monster. Yep, a movie about normal animals getting mutated into giant monsters was obviously going to find its way here, and to be honest, I'm surprised they haven't made a sequel to it yet. Rampage did well enough at the box office, and it's mainly due to its big three. No, I'm not talking about Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole and Drake. I mean George, Ralph and Lizzie. Since we're covering entrances, I just had to include the giant crocodile showing up out of nowhere to roar in the sky, pretty much like how Godzilla does in each and every one of his own movies. Yeah, I'm pretty sure some Japanese dude in the background must have been like, oh come on, this is why I left Tokyo in the first place. They pretty much showed Lizzie as the personification of a tank, and that makes sense, you know. Crocs and gator scales are like a suit of armor, so for this massive beast to show up and start tanking attacks felt so natural, almost as if it was her job. The build up to the Lizzie reveal was done pretty well too, especially since it was easy to forget that there was a third monster in the middle of all this carnage being caused by the giant wolf. I think it's because the movie never really showed or talked about Lizzie in detail until this scene. This is of course not counting the brief part when the gas canister landed in the swamp. I know Godzilla's role in this film wasn't as much as we would have liked it to be, but man, I loved his attitude here. Bro was catching bodies left, right and center, and I was totally for it. He took down Skylar, then Tiamat, and was about to add Kong to that list too, until his reincarnated girl Mothra stopped him. That would have been 3 titans in one movie. Anyway, my focus here is when Godzilla evolves and announces his new form by breaking out of a freaking iceberg. The visuals of this sequence were epic to say the least, especially with the way we see his neon green glow lighting up from within the ice. The king of the monsters wasn't messing around at all, and even though I still prefer the OG blue atomic breath, I have to give it to the visuals of this evolved form. Oh yeah, and I'm not sure what they meant when they said that his energy capacity was 20 times that of his original form, because if that did happen to be true, then Godzilla must have seriously been holding back against Shimo in that final battle. God, I'm so excited to see what's going to happen in the next installment of the Monsterverse. ever heard of the movie Lake Placid? Well, maybe not if you're Gen Z or younger, but believe me, this was the most epic crocodile movie of the time, and it stayed that way for years after its release. It's supposed to be a mix of horror and comedy, but whenever you're dealing with the croc, I think it's safe to say that no one's laughing. The scene in question here is when the giant crocodile suddenly makes an appearance when a grizzly bear is already terrorizing our lead characters. It was so sudden and horrifying because a grizzly bear in itself is a pretty scary beast to tackle. Hearing something like that whimper while being dragged into a lake was probably the scariest thing a kid could see at the time. That bear must have been telling the humans, "I'm on top of the food chain," only for the croc to show up seconds later and be like, "Not anymore, bro." Yeah, I'm sure Yogi won't be stealing any more picnic baskets in Maine after this. Also, I got reminded of this scene almost immediately when I first saw the mosasaur gobbling up the Indominus Rex in Jurassic World. Let me know in the comments if you noticed the same thing. Well, I did just mention her in the last entry, so I guess it's fitting to have the Indominus Rex take up this one. It goes without saying that this mutated dinosaur had the most character development out of any of the main villains in the Jurassic World movies. She was shown to be a proper predator with the brains of a literal serial killer. It's like we're looking at the clever girl meme on steroids. One of the best examples of her intelligence can be seen when she escapes the paddock and essentially makes a proper entrance into the movie. Hiding her thermal signature was a wise move, even though it took some amateurish writing to allow the plot to make that tactic relevant. I mean, Claire could have prevented the entire movie if she called the control room from the cage instead of from the Mercedes-Benz sponsor shop. Having said that, the way the Indominus straight up charges at the humans and makes her escape from the paddock was a treat to watch. It had suspense, high stakes, and a very angry dinosaur. I know the movie hasn't really aged well in terms of the screenplay and stuff, but man, scenes like these totally justify its box office collection. It's the big Battle of the Apes coming in right now, and it's none other than Kong against the Scar King. Now, just to be clear, I don't really think the Scar King is a strong enough villain for King Kong, so forget about Godzilla. The dude literally calls out to Shimo every single time he hits the slightest of inconvenience. Honestly speaking, if he was just by himself, then I don't think he would have stood a chance against Cilia or Tiamat either. However, what makes his entrance so epic is the fact that all the other apes of Hollow Earth worship him as their one true leader. Kong is made to look like a side character in his own movie and amongst his own kind. Well, maybe the exact species might be different, but you know what I'm talking about, don't you? The way Scar King is just casually chilling on his throne without a care in the world goes to show how much of a boss he really is, and the sheer dominance he showcases in front of the other apes in itself is good enough to show Kong that he's at a disadvantage. Sure, the fight starts to go in Kong's favour till Shimo comes to the party, but every single thing up until that point told us that Scar King is the most badass leader these apes have ever seen. The Transformers are pretty badass in their own right, but when you combine them with dinosaurs, you get a whole other vibe altogether. Just look at Grimlock and his counterparts. They're as badass as they come. Now, the entrance I'm talking about over here isn't when they make their acquaintance with Optimus Prime and the Autobots. It's actually when they team up with the Decepticons in that epic face-off. The high stakes of the scene make the entrance a lot more impactful, because just when it looked like Mark Wahlberg and co were toast, in comes Optimus riding a freaking T-Rex robot. That's peak alpha vibes if you ask me, and the domination that followed was truly spectacular. Imagine being the Decepticons in this case. What are you going to do when you see such an army charging at you with all they have? Of course, we all know what Optimus is capable of, but seeing Grimlock and his team also tearing down the opposition with disdain was a proper highlight to me. Man, I really hope they continue with these Transformer monster hybrids, because a couple of movies aren't going to be enough to keep audiences satisfied.
All right.
Never has such a hyped up entrance delivered to this scale, and I totally stand by that statement because this is definitely worthy of a spot in my top 10. Clash of the Titans had a lot of interesting fights and creature designs, but none of them even hold a candle to the freaking Kraken. This beast is such an absolute unit that his mere entrance in itself took up so much time to get completed. That roar was probably the most deafening roar anyone would have heard in their lives, and the beast's mere presence was more than enough to cement itself as the alpha boss of this film. Sure, he gets humble pretty quickly thanks to Medusa's gaze, but even then, it took a whole lot of time for his entire body to turn to stone. When you normally think about a final boss in a classic film, I don't think the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man would be your first choice. However, 1984's Ghostbusters gave us an iconic entrance when the final form of Gozer came in a sweet-looking package. What really stands out here is the fact that everyone was worried about who they would choose as the final form of the Destructor. It was only when they were told that the form was chosen that the Ghostbusters and the audience both started to panic. Look, I don't want to put all the blame on Ray for this because I'm sure he was probably trying to think of something that would normally be harmless. However, to see the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man suddenly showing up and roaring like some kind of dragon most definitely took us all by surprise. One of the best things about this scene is that the monster wasn't even in the trailer at all, so it was a genuine shocker. These days, with every movie having about a dozen trailers, you can pretty much plot out the entire film by just watching them in order. I've actually covered this sequence tons of times before because, well, it's a certified classic. However, this time it's making noise because of what happens before the iconic "You shall not pass." It's when the Balrog actually shows up in all of his glory and dreaded flames. The whole idea of this scene was to present high stakes for our heroes on their journey towards safe passage, and the presence of the Balrog immediately took down the probability of safety in an instant. The creature design isn't very detailed due to the dark surroundings and the general sense of mystery that surround the beast, but all that worked in its favour. Also, I love the fact that the Balrog announced itself not with some guttural animalistic roar, but rather with a literal roar of flames. See, this is how you make an epic franchise. Yeah, you hear me, Amazon? Nobody wants Rings of Power Season 2. 2007's Transformers was a dream come true for many teenage boys, and yes, Megan Fox may have been one of the reasons for it, but the film was pretty epic too. Man, this movie could be 100 years old and the CGI will still hit hard. The first time we see Sam meeting the Autobots was truly a transformational experience, and I'm not just saying it for the pun. Like, imagine yourself meeting a bunch of vehicles that can turn into combat-ready robots in the blink of an eye. Also, this is a friendly reminder that it was the first time Peter Cullen voiced Optimus Prime since the 80s.
My name is Optimus Prime.
So hearing a simple line like, "I am Optimus Prime," in itself sent shivers down my spine, and the overall tone of the scene was intentionally built to showcase itself as a legendary moment. Don't you just hate it when you're at a loud airport? All that noise really ruins the mood, especially if you're trying to go on a nice little vacation. Having said that, I don't think it would have been so bad for these people who had to witness Godzilla unleash his epic roar in typical fashion. I mean, they're also under attack from the Muto, so they definitely need a saviour, but this is also kind of like a money shot. The hype towards the King of the Monsters was building throughout the entire film, so to see Godzilla finally showing up and doing his thing definitely had the crowd going wild. Just look at the stature of this dude. It's actually the one time I didn't have any problem with the way the Americans treated foreign material. You know how they say you should never trust anybody, not even yourself? Well, that's exactly what happens here as Godzilla finds out that the imposter going around and terrorizing people under his disguise was none other than Mechagodzilla. Imagine the disdain on his face when he realized that AI was trying to replace him all the way back in 1974. Now, to be fair, this is more of a reveal than an entrance, but it still qualifies because it marks the villain's true appearance on the battlefield. It's a pretty big moment in the movie because it clarifies a lot when it comes to Godzilla's clone. All this time, people were thinking that the King of the Monsters had gone rogue, but he was innocent the whole time. If only O.J. Simpson had a similar storyline for his own situation. Oh yeah, this scene is epic on multiple levels, but I'm not placing it so high up on this list because of the fight scene. It's actually the entrances that get it this far. First of all, you've got the Indominus Rex showing up to all of the raptors to finish off the humans. It's nothing fancy as such, but to me, she looked pretty threatening. Then of course, you have the epic entrance of the Jurassic Park OG T-Rex, Rexy. Her entrance alone should have sealed the deal here, but then we get a couple of surprise attacks from the Blue and the Mosasaur to finish things off. See, when I told you about the Lake Placid entry earlier, I figured I should at least let you know where the inspiration actually came from. Oh man, this movie redefined what it's like to make a modern era monster film, and I'm so glad it's receiving love from all over the world. Godzilla Minus One has a lot of deep themes and strong tones, but I'm not here to provide a critical evaluation. My only focus is the entry, and the damage he causes to Ginza City was nothing short of horrific. Not only does he make quite the entrance while showing up there, he also went ahead and fired a full power atomic blast to let people know the King of the Monsters is here, and he means business. Like, damn bro, you didn't have to go so hard, but you do you, I guess. There's no chance in the world where I won't put in the OG entrance in an all-time list. The T-Rex entrance from the first Jurassic Park movie is a scene that's been etched into cinema history forever, and it totally changed the way the world looked at dinosaurs. The creatures' designs were epic for sure, but you also need to factor in the fact that Steven Spielberg used animatronics and physical effects to make this work for the most part. It's truly an accomplishment of the highest order, and even the way this scene is directed leading up to Rexy's arrival is nothing short of spectacular. Right from the power going out to the goat leg falling onto the Jeep, right until the roaring money shot, this is the most epic entrance of all time. But wait, how does it end up at number 2 then? So what's taken the top spot? Yes, this is the best Godzilla entrance across all movies, and that's saying something. Only a certified classic from a certified franchise could have been good enough to trump the T-Rex entry, and for good reason too. This is all the way back in 1974, so to see those sparkling eyes followed by a deadly roar was something the audience members would be speaking about even 5 to 10 years down the line. It created such an impact that the public started to view Godzilla as a proper superhero in his franchise as well. And of course, it paved the way for Monsterverse, which is totally dominating the box office nowadays. See, old is indeed gold. Hope you like this video. Please subscribe to the TV Region, and here's another video I know you're going to enjoy.